Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It's November 21st when I'm recording this. Hope you guys are doing well. Remember, next week is Thanksgiving, so it's going to be shortened week, like a half day, stuff like that. So just make sure you pay attention to the market schedule next week. And other than that, this week's been kind of laying low. The market's just been really bad. It's been coming down. If you took some short trades, great. I kind of think that we're getting close to a bottom for a couple of reasons. One, the SPX met its weekly 21. That has been my target for a while, so we finally got that today. There was some news about the Fed heads. It's actually been back and forth. So let me kind of dive into this and show you some of what's been happening with interest rates and the market and all that kind of stuff. If you look at the right side of your screen here, this is the Fed funds rate, and basically it's been how the projections of how people think that the Fed is going to cut rates. And you can see a month ago it was pretty much locked and loaded that the Fed was going to cut rates in December. And then it was like, oh, maybe not. And then just yesterday, it was a 39 or a 36% chance that they were going to cut rates, which is not good. They're like, market's basically thinking, okay, they're not going to cut rates. This is not good. The market's repricing everything because they were expecting a rate cut. And you could see the small caps and a lot of the risk on Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that were getting hit because they were expecting rate cuts and now they're not going to get rate cuts. And so I think this is the issue. And now you can see from yesterday to today, it has now gone to a 71. It was 74 earlier, chance of a rate cut. And so this kind of buoyed the market a little bit today. And that's what we're going to be getting into. Now, as I have up here, NVIDIA versus rate cuts. So yesterday, NVIDIA had earnings. It basically lifted the entire market because they came out with great numbers, and it showed that the whole AI situation was still alive and that everything's doing well. I do also know that there have been some reports coming out that some of the circular financing and some of the accounting and is this all real? I don't know. There seems to be a lot of controversy about the legitimacy of some of the receivables and the debt and kind of stuff like this. So just be aware it's not a clear picture yet. But based on today, with the idea of the rate cuts maybe back on the table, we can see that the small caps lifted today. And they were some of the ones getting hit the most. And so maybe we can start to see a bounce, especially since the SPX came down to the daily or the weekly 21. So we got that. Also, maybe because of the holiday, we have perhaps some bullishness that might happen. I do think that the market's kind of getting oversold. It's hit a couple downside targets. A lot of things are getting super stretched. And I just kind of wonder, can we get a bounce into Thanksgiving? So I'm kind of looking at that. We put on a trade for a bounce into this week, and we'll kind of see how that goes. Okay, let's kind of put this away. And then, so one of the things you can see, I just have this up on my screen, but like BMNU, BMNR, I'm just going to point out, I think it's very interesting that a lot of volume has been coming into the leverage ETF of BMNR, which is Ethereum. Obviously it hasn't bottomed yet. It might be close. We're kind of been looking at this. I think it's pretty close, but just wanted to show you that there's some volume coming in here, and I don't think it's selling volume. I have MSTR. We're going to talk about that too. So let me get over to the SPX, and we have taken a few trades, and we've had some good stuff. So Friday of last week into, I think it was like Tuesday, we did take a trade right here, which was right here going into the weekend. We put on a couple things. So let me show you what that looked like. We put on a put debit spread. And so on Tuesday, I believe the 18th, we cashed that in for 138% gain. So pretty nice there. And we also went long on the UVIX, and we cashed that in for either 21% gain on the stock or 185% gain on the options. I took all of these, and so that actually was a nice start to the week on the downside since the market went down. Might as well take advantage of it. And what we can see is that was basically from here to right there is what we caught. Pretty nice move. And then I just wanted to be flat for NVIDIA earnings because, I mean, wow, look at that kind of craziness. And then since yesterday, Thursday, the market pretty much ended on the lows. We actually put on another put debit spread because this thing looked like it wanted to go down further. And I figured that the SPX was probably going to come down and hit 6,500, which is the weekly 21. And while it got close, The issue was that the market didn't really just get down there in a hurry. And then with the news that maybe the Fed or some Fed heads were saying, okay, maybe rate cuts, the market had bounced overnight. I was like, this doesn't look very good. So I got out of that. It was a 15% loss, not that big of a deal. But you can see that good thing I got out of it, because the market then turned around and bounced strongly today. Now, that was part of the thing. If you look at the SPX, since the SPX is kind of stuck in the middle between the mega caps and the small caps, you can see it didn't really go down too far and then blipped to the upside. You could actually see that there was a little bit of a heads up that the market was actually looking to go up today, because if you look here on the RSP, you can see the RSP actually opened up and basically stayed up for pretty much all day. And that was the thing. And you compare that though to, say, let's just do FNGU. This is the leverage ETF of the FANG stocks. And you can see that in the morning, it continued to be very, very heavy. So there really was a pretty big divergence, or at least differential in personality and character today, between the RSP, which is the S&P 493, or the small caps and stuff like that, versus the mega caps and the FANG stocks. So there was quite the difference. And that's why I decided to get out of my downside trade on the SPX. It would have worked out just a little bit, but then the market reversed to the upside. So let's see, if we go back to the SPX and we look at this and we look at the weekly chart, you can see here, we pretty much hit the weekly 21. So that's my first target. And now I want to see if we can bounce. I'm not saying it's a swing trade. I'm not saying anything else like that. We've still got a lot of work to do if this market's going to get fixed, but I think we could get a bounce in through here. And some of the stuff that I'm starting to see, I'll show you this in more of the other stocks. We're starting to see a little bit of divergence here. We kind of was able to get over the 15-minute 50, and this maybe is an inverse head and shoulders for right here. It's not the clearest, not the cleanest, but if we can get a little bit more upside over the weekend, I'm kind of thinking we can get right up in here, right about 6,700, maybe a little bit higher next week. We'll see. And then if you look at the RSP, this is also something. Now, I know that RSP, these things have definitely been pulling back. But what I'm starting to see is that we actually got breadth to pop up today. And you can see that it probed lower and then ended higher. And actually, this looks pretty darn good over on the 15-minute time frame. So even if we have a little bit of weakness on Monday, I think this could actually hold the lows. And maybe we see some more strength Monday afternoon or Tuesday, something like that. It's kind of what I'm gearing for. And if we look at the IWM, we can also see this thing has had a pretty big move to the downside. It has gone below its weekly 21, but now you can see here it actually closed on its weekly 21. So again, I kind of feel like we're starting to get into some support, because this market really has been down quite a bit. And if you look here, we had a pretty good reversal today, especially after the craziness that happened Thursday after NVIDIA earnings. I mean, when the whole market jumped up like this and then they just ran it down all day, I think that really cleaned the slate, surprised a lot of people, kind of wiped some stuff out. And then today we get a little bit of Fed dovishness, rate cut news, and that kind of helped bring the market back up. So I kind of feel like for right now, a low could be in, and I think we could see the market kind of drift up a little bit, maybe going into Thanksgiving. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So yeah, kind of a nice big turnaround right there. We'll have to kind of see. And then if you look at SMH, this is where we continue to see some weakness in through here. Of course, if the market's going to bounce, everything's going to bounce, but this definitely has been hit the hardest. You can see it's still just, I mean, we're still kind of under here a bit. So it's got some work to do. I will note that the SMH, so the semiconductors, did also hit their weekly 21. So again, I think that's kind of notable. And if you look here on the daily chart, we also hit this lower extension right there on the daily chart. So yeah. And then if you look at FNGS, kind of the same story. This thing has come down into prior support, prior area, stuff like that. Yes, it's definitely got some work to do, but I'm kind of feeling like the market could be getting a little bit stretched to the downside, and we could be working on some sort of hold in the rear. Maybe we actually get a little bit of a move to the upside next week. And if we look at ARKK, just another one to see here. Once again, we've had these things really move down pretty hard. This one is definitely blown past the weekly 21. Like, okay, but it's come down a lot. Maybe we should start finding some support. It's kind of down into the monthly 10. Maybe that's going to be an area. And yeah, you can see here, you look left and you just see, you can hear right here, right into a previous support. It's been really running these lower trend lines or outer boundary areas. And then it's like, can we just get a bounce? I mean, we haven't even bounced to the daily 21 at all since these downtrends began. And that's pretty extreme. So I'm just kind of feeling like we could be close to some sort of bounce. Can we bounce up to the daily 21? It's really all that I'm looking for. Can that happen? Can we get that kind of first move? And then if we look at FFTY, this is the IPD 50. Once again, we've had huge pullbacks, and I feel like we are starting to kind of come into support. We're coming into the monthly 10, we're coming into the weekly 50, you know, a huge downdraft for a few weeks, and we're starting to come into these areas here that just feel very extended to the downside. And can we finally start to move these things to the upside? Again, lots of work to do. Can we just get a bounce and see where we go from there? Let's take a look at breadth. And so if we look at this, I want to show you guys, we did get a little bit of bounce from the internals today. You can see a little bit there, a little bit there. Again, nothing really too exciting, nothing to write home about. I'm not going to be saying too much, but I do want to just say, like, you know, it wasn't just one thing bounced. It actually, there seemed to be quite a few things that were kind of bouncing today. So just kind of something to note there. And then if we do look at the VIX and the UVIX, you know, it was getting a little bit extended. Perhaps, I know this isn't super important, but maybe a little bit of a double top, maybe a little bit of third ATR up there, and you can see it was up here and kind of came back down here. So again, we're just kind of looking at things and just seeing, you know, has this kind of done what has it done what it needs to do for a little while, and can we finally see things back off on the downside for a little bit? And here you can look at this, you know, maybe third ATR, double top, something like that. Like, you know, can we get a little something here? So again, nothing super duper concrete, just kind of looking at stuff. And if we look at Bitcoin, you know, a little bit of a reversal from Bitcoin. It was down and then kind of came up, and it hit basically 80,000. I mean, it pretty much hit 80,000. John Carter nailed it. He has several videos out there talking about Bitcoin 80,000, and I was kind of saying, like, man, I hope it doesn't go to 80,000, because if we go to 80,000, that means, you know, things are pretty bad, and, you know, that's not going to be great for the market out there. Well, it has not been great for the market, and Bitcoin has hit 80,000. So let's see. You can look at this, and right here we are into a prior level. So there could be some support in through here. And again, on the weekly chart, we are starting to hit these very extreme levels. And you can also look on the daily chart. I mean, we have just kind of hit a waterfall. So I would imagine stops are getting hit, people are getting liquidated, people are throwing in, you know, crying uncle, and, you know, we're just really getting extended to the downside. Is this a place where dip buyers and big money start to come in? Maybe. There's nothing super concrete to work with here, but at some point, bigger traders are going to look at this and see value, and hopefully they're going to start coming in and buying the dip here. So we'll see. We can also look at MSTR as a little bit of a proxy here as well. You know, huge moves to the downside. It's getting extended on the weekly chart, and it's back into a prior congestion area, prior price support. So if I were short, I would be nervous to continue being short. And so hopefully the shorts start to dry up, and hopefully buyers start to come in. There has also been a lot of volume that has starting to pick up here. So hopefully, you know, there's some exchanging of volume and positions in through here, and maybe we can start to find a low. Again, nothing that I can really point to yet. It has not turned yet, but it's just getting very extreme down there. Okay, then let's take a look at Tesla. It's always one I like to look at. This too, if we look at the weekly chart, has basically come down and done a double bottom on the weekly 21. So I'm kind of looking for a bounce in through here. Can we get a bounce off of the weekly 21 and see what we can do? I think that right here and right here, I'd like to see if that does anything. We're going to have to wait till next week. I did put another little position on here, and I want to see if next week we can actually, you know, come up here and basically get over the hourly 50 again, just for a trade. Can we do something? Can we get the market to come up a little bit? And I'm just starting to take some nibbles and see if we can do anything about that. Other things, just to kind of show you what I'm seeing out there. A lot of names look like this, where a lot of risk on or speculative names have really come down hard. But I think that we're starting to see that they are perhaps finding some support. they're getting oversold, extended to the downside, and maybe we can actually start seeing them bounce. And you can see just BKSY is one of those, to where, you know, the market has been coming down for the last few days, but it actually has kind of been bouncing. It's been trying to find some support. So these are some of the green shoots that I see. The kind of like, okay, maybe we're starting to come into an area where they've really drilled everything down, and now we can maybe kind of get a bounce. So just one more thing to kind of look at there. And you could look at TEM, kind of doing the same thing. Market's been going down for the last few days. It's gone sideways, and it's actually trying to move up a little bit. So not everything continues to bleed down. It's just that they're kind of working their way through the market, and some of the stuff that went down earlier has already been down, and now it's finding support, and maybe they can start to bounce while they kind of continue to drain out of some of the other sectors, and then hopefully we can, you know, get a bounce. And then there are other names that are actually looking pretty decent. Upwork, we took a trade on this one. And you can see here, despite what the market's been doing, that weekly chart looks really great. So I'm hopeful on this one. We've actually been trading this a couple times. And you're looking through here, and for as much as the market has gone down, what is Upwork doing? It's actually, you know, up. So yeah, I think this is actually looking fairly promising. If the market can just stop going down and actually start looking up a little bit, I think this one is poised to continue going higher. And there are a few names out there like that have, you know, held up decently well during the market downdraft. So not everything's terrible, but a lot of things terrible. And all the fun names that we like to trade, you know, all the risk on type stuff, they're not doing well. So it's really just been sit on your hands, take some short trades, take some day trades, things like that, and just lay low until the market actually starts to give us some clues. And maybe we started to see that today with the Fed funds, you know, rate cut kind of warming up a little bit. So let's see what next week does. Let's see if the market's a little bit happy going into Thanksgiving, and we'll go from there. So remember, everybody, simplertrading.com/Moxie if you guys are interested in coming into the Moxie room and seeing more of what we do here. And other than that, you guys enjoy your week, and I'll see you next week. Take care.